y'all, welcome back to the channel. It is Naomi and baby Rain, and today I wanted to go and do a Q&A of my labor and delivery and answer all of the questions that I received in the comments or other questions that I received outside of the video. I did go and comment and answer some of you guys' questions that were in the comments, but I wanted to take this time to kind of go more in detail on certain things that happened during my experience in the hospital, the induction, etc. I know that these type of videos people do watch for their own experience and before they go into it. So I do want to just take this time to be as much help as possible, give my details so that I can possibly help someone that is going to experience an induction or just pregnancy in general. So I'm going to go into those questions and we're going to get right into it. Okay, so question number one is, why was I induced at 37 weeks? So at 35 weeks, I went to my normal checkups and appointments, and then found out basically I had high blood pressure. So I had a mild case of preeclampsia, and for those of you that don't know what preeclampsia is, it is associated with high blood pressure in pregnancy. So at my 35-week appointment is when I was diagnosed with it and found out about it. Prior to that appointment, all of my tests, all of my vitals, everything came back normal. It was fine. And I felt fine. Nothing felt off. Nothing felt different. I just had high blood pressure and didn't know and didn't find out until my 35-week appointment. Prior to, there's other symptoms with preeclampsia, and again, I had a mild case. There is severe cases. So for example, if it was a severe case, I would have had to go into labor and deliver him at my 35 weeks because it would have had to have happened immediately. So thank God it wasn't severe. So I did have a mild case, so I was able to go as far as 37 weeks. So I had to deliver him at 37 weeks no matter what. But going into the only other symptoms that I had, which are symptoms of preeclampsia, I had extremely swollen feet. There was so much fluid in my feet, it hurt to walk. I felt like I was walking on balloons. But I had extremely swollen feet. I started to get extremely swollen hands and fingers, and then my face kind of blew up a little bit, but I associated that with just normal pregnancy symptoms. But yeah, so I had very swollen feet, very swollen hands. I had high blood pressure, and then the day prior to me finding out I had a mild case of preeclampsia, I actually had blurred vision. It sounds crazy, but I was just sitting in the house, and then out of nowhere my vision became blurry to the point where sometimes, you know, obviously I wear glasses, so sometimes I've experienced to where my vision go blurry, but that's because I like been up too long or I'm staring at a screen. So I thought it was that. I tried to close my eyes. It did not go away. It lasted for at least a good 20-30 minutes. And that's also another symptom of preeclampsia. So that was the only thing that happened prior to me finding out about the preeclampsia. But once I went to my appointment, they did inform me that I did have a mild case. I had high blood pressure, etc. And then I would have to go into delivering him at the 37 weeks. So I was somewhat prepared 2 weeks prior to my induction. Alrighty, question number two. Did I receive an epidural, and how dilated was I when I received it? So I realized we did not put me getting the epidural in the video. At that point, I was so in pain, I said forget a camera. So we did not record that, but yes, I did get an epidural, and there's no way I would have delivered him with that one. So originally, I will say, I was like, I wanted to go in natural. I don't know why, I just like natural things. So I originally wanted to go into this experience natural without an epidural, and that quickly changed as soon as I got in that hospital. So I will say, leading up to the epidural, I did not receive the epidural. Okay, so let me back up. I received the epidural at 2 centimeters dilated. Now, I didn't receive the epidural at 2 centimeters dilated because it was just unbearable pain. again, I'm getting induced. So in order for everything to jumpstart, they had to break my water. Once they broke the water, that's when it got real. And that's when the pain escalated immediately. So that's when I asked for that epidural. So it wasn't because the pain was unbearable. Again, I feel like I have a high tolerance in pain somewhat. Since I was little, I've always had terrible period cramps. And if you've had a baby, or if you're about to experience going through pregnancy for your first time, to me and to a lot of people, contractions feel like terrible period cramps. So for me, I was able to just to breathe through it. When they came, breathe through it will help me, etc. So I could get through it. I probably could have made it to like 3 or 4 centimeters without an epidural prior to them breaking my water, but because they broke my water, it definitely jump started everything, and the contractions got worse. And I was just like, before they get any worse, I'm gonna get the epidural. So yes, I did get the epidural, and I did get the epidural at 2 centimeters. Question number 3. What drugs was I given for induction? So during my experience there, I did get Citatec, if I'm pronouncing that right. So in the video, my nurse was talking about a pill she was gonna give me. That was the Citatec. So they break the pill up in 4 pieces, so it was like literally a small little crumb that I had to swallow, but it packed a powerful punch, okay? Because as soon as I took it and it hit my system, I felt them contractions. So I got Citatec. I was supposed to take that 4 times. Again, they broke up the pill in 4 pieces. I took it once orally. It might have been once or twice orally. And then for whatever reason, I don't know if it was like to get things going quicker, to soften my cervix, they did a vaginal Citatec as well. So I did an oral and a vaginal. After the Citatec, things were not progressing fast enough. So then we also did Pitocin. I feel like Pitocin barely did anything. Honestly, I feel like what got everything going quickly, of course, was my water being broken. But after that, they gave me the Citatec. Then I took the Pitocin, and then after my water was broke, they put me back on Pitocin, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure I was back on Pitocin, but I could be tripping. It's a blur at this point. But I think after the epidural, not the epidural, after they broke my water, they put me back on Pitocin. But those were the 2 drugs I was on, was the Citatec and the Pitocin, to get everything jump started. And then of course they broke my water. Question number 4. How long did it take to get things going? And that is referring to my dilation. So we were admitted into the hospital on a Friday. It was supposed to be at 3 a.m., but apparently everybody was having a baby that day, so it got pushed back. So we were admitted Friday night, almost Saturday morning. So it was like at like 10 or 11, probably like 10 p.m., 10:30, that we got everything started. I got situated, etc. So Friday, the process started. That's when I took my first medication, which was the Citatec. So that was Friday. I took the Citatec. I came into the hospital 1 centimeter dilated, which I was shocked about. But I came into the hospital 1 centimeter dilated, and then of course I got situated, I got admitted. They gave me the Citatec, and then eventually, I don't even know when I hit 2 centimeters. It had to be Saturday at some time. I was at 2 centimeters, and I was at 2 centimeters for a very long time. Mind you, I was in the hospital for I think 5 days total, but before he was here and delivered, I was in labor in that, doing that whole process for 2 days. Yeah, 2.5 days, something like that. So yep, Friday I came in 1 centimeter. Saturday I hit 2 centimeters. I was 2 centimeters for a very long time. I want to say I hit like 3 centimeters. When was that? 3 centimeters either late Saturday or going into Sunday. Mind you, again, I was 2 centimeters for the longest. It just was, I was not progressing. He did not want to come, which I understand. But yeah, so I was 2-3 centimeters for a while, and then eventually I got to a point where I was 5 centimeters, 6 centimeters, and then once I was at 6 centimeters, I slept all the way through until it was 10 centimeters and ready to push. So at one point in the middle of the night, I know they had came in, checked me. I was 5 centimeters, and then after that, they checked me again. I was 6 centimeters, and then they didn't check me again until I was 10 centimeters, and I was asleep, and they woke me up out of my sleep and said it's time to push. So yeah, so it took at least 2 days to actually get to a point where I was, what's it? It's like 2.5 days, something like that, that I actually got to a point where I was able to push, and my cervix was soft enough for me to start to get him out. So yeah. Question number 4, which I kind of already answered this, is what is my pain tolerance? Again, I have really bad period cramps. So when going into it, I was like, okay, this is familiar. It's not terrible, of course, until it got terrible. But I want to say, again, I have a high pain tolerance. So going into it, it was not terrible for me starting off. But again, I didn't make it that far without an epidural because they broke my water at 2 centimeters. So I can't really speak on what it would feel like at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. Centimeters. But for me, at the 2 centimeters, it was not terrible. It really, if you have bad period cramps, you really can get through for a while before getting the epidural. And I kind of wanted to hold off on getting the epidural so quick because I knew I wouldn't be able to get out the bed. I'll be stuck to the bed. And what helped me when I had those bad period cramps is kind of getting up, walking, trying to bounce on the ball, move on the ball, just staying active instead of being stuck to the bed definitely does help. So that's also a tip. If you can hold off as long as possible for the epidural, do it, only because you will be stuck to the bed. You will be numb from the waist down, so you won't have the opportunity to get up, go to the restroom on your own, kind of walk it out, work it out, etc. So you're kind of going to be stuck to the bed if you do get the epidural. So I was trying to hold off as much as possible. But again, they broke my water at 2 centimeters per the doctor's instructions. So I didn't really have a choice after those contractions started hitting harder. So yeah, my pain tolerance is, I will say, kind of high. Question number 5 is, how long did I push for? So I actually did pretty good. I would say I pushed for 35 to 40 minutes. It felt way quicker than that. Once you're actually in it, unless you're like pushing for an hour and some change, it felt super quick. When they told me it was 35, 40 minutes, I'm like, wow, it felt like it was like that. When I was pushing, it really didn't hurt at all. I started to feel the worst pressure once his head was coming out and he was actually coming out. But other than that, I mean, it was pretty quick. It felt pretty quick. The nurses and Will told me I did pretty good. I was just pushing and going, trying to get him out. It was definitely an amazing experience doing it, and I wasn't expecting it to go the way that it did. But yeah, it was 35 to 40 minutes that I was pushing. It felt way quicker than that. In my head, it felt like 15 to 20. But yeah, it didn't take that long, and he was a little thing. So that's probably why I could get him out so easily. Question number 6. What were some things that I did to jumpstart labor and get dilated? And this is referring to prior to getting induced and going to the hospital. So again, this was kind of like an unexpected news induction type of thing, because again, I found out at 35 weeks I would have to deliver at 37 weeks. So it gave me 2 weeks to prepare mentally, physically, everything. So I wasn't really thinking about jump starting anything, or starting all the teas and eating certain things to get started, or working out, blah blah. I had intentions to, but just didn't. So again, at 35 weeks, I found out I had 2 weeks to prepare everything. So I didn't do much. I didn't even start pumping or anything like that. 2 days prior to induction day is when I started to do little stuff, thinking like, oh, it may help. So I started bouncing on the ball. I started doing certain stretches and moves and all the different positions on the ball, as well as collect colostrum. So pumping and jumping on the ball, I could tell it was working because I would feel like certain cramps, or I would get Braxton Hicks contractions. So I knew that it was doing something. I just didn't know how much of an impact it was going to have, because again, I was doing it 2 days prior, and I know some people do it weeks leading up to their due date. So I didn't really have a huge lead, but I wanted to do something because I'm like, whatever I can do to help him come quicker, I'm going to do it. So I did start to pump and bounce on the ball. I will say, pumping the colostrum definitely did help, because I think that's when I really felt a difference, and I really started to feel the Braxton Hicks. I don't know if that was just something that can get the Braxton Hicks started, but I did think it helped. I'm gonna go with the story of me bouncing on that ball and me pumping helped get things going. I did go into the hospital at 1 centimeter, and prior to that, I was not dilated at all. So I definitely think bouncing on the ball and pumping was the thing that got it going. So if you want to do it weeks prior to, and you may get things started. Number 7 is, did I collect colostrum and did I bring it to the hospital? I just told you guys that yes, I pumped and I did collect colostrum. I'm kind of salty that I did it like a day or two prior to induction. I wish I would have started it a little bit further, but again, per doctor's orders, they told me to kind of be careful on doing that, because I was already 37 weeks. I was already high risk. I have preeclampsia, etc. So I didn't want to do something that was going to cause stress to him or myself, or go into labor any earlier than I already had to. So I did start collecting colostrum, I think 2 days before. Again, everything started 2 days before. So I started collecting 2 days before, and I got a good amount, I will say. The thing that I do regret, and I wish that I did do, was actually bring it to the hospital. I don't know if my mindset was just I was in a rush and I forgot it, but also I was kind of like, I don't need it. I'll keep it for the house when he's sick. I'll use it then. So I did not bring it. I kept it at home. But the reason that I kind of regret it and I wish I did bring it is because he had a hard time latching. Because he had a hard time latching, it caused his blood sugar to be low and his temperature to drop. So, and it didn't help that he was already early, 37 weeks, delivered at 37 weeks, and then he was also a little thing. So all of those things on top of him not getting enough food because he wasn't latching caused his blood sugar to go low and his temperature to drop. So because of all of that, he had to actually supplement formula with my breast milk. So he would latch on when he could, but he was getting frustrated. He wasn't latching on good, so he wasn't eating as much. So he would get a little bit of milk, and then we had to supplement the rest with formula. I absolutely hate formula. Again, if you have to do it, by all means, do it. A fed baby is the best baby. But me personally, I do not like formula. I want him to get the most natural nutrients as possible, and that's for me. So that was one thing I never wanted, was for him to be on formula. Neither me or Will wanted him to be on formula of any kind. So I was kind of, not upset, but kind of like heartbroken that he had to supplement with the formula because he wasn't getting enough. but it only lasted for like a day or two, or a day while he was in the hospital. So it wasn't too much. And then when he got home, I think it was only like a night that I gave it to him, because at that point I was still working on trying to get him to latch. He got a little better, but he just wasn't, he was getting frustrated. He wasn't getting enough. He was not liking my nipples. So we ended up going exclusively pumping, which is amazing, and that's what works for us. So anyways, back to the hospital. I did wish I would have brought it, because I could have gave him the colostrum while we was there, and maybe we wouldn't have had to supplement with formula. But a learning lesson, next time I know, when I have another kid, I'm definitely going to bring the colostrum, because you just never know how your baby is going to do or latch. And if you are not looking to supplement, then I would definitely say pump and bring the colostrum, or bring your pump to the hospital and pump, of course, and give him or her that. So question number 8 is, how was the pain / recovery after birth in the hospital? So this is referring to in the hospital, not when I got home. So honestly, I don't know if you guys heard it in the video. You heard the doctor say that I only tore well, first she didn't think I tore, and then she was like, you tore a little bit. So I tore to the point where it was barely a tear, but it was a tear. I think she said it was a 1st-degree tear. So I like to say I didn't tear, because that's how small it was, and it didn't feel like I tore. It didn't feel like anything. My pain was actually smooth once I pushed him out, once the placenta was out, outside of, you know, other things that can happen after birth. I won't go in details, maybe TMI. But it honestly didn't feel like I had a baby. It was weird. Like, I still say to this day, like, it didn't feel like I physically pushed him out. It's just like, it feels like he's here. Like, after I pushed him out, there was no pain. The only pain literally that I felt was from the epidural in my back. That after pain, it was basically sore. So like, it felt like you got punched in the back, and now there's like a knot there, and it's just like irritated, sore pain. That was really the only pain that I felt afterwards. There was no vaginal pain really at all. That's why I say it really didn't feel like I pushed him out. Again, he was a small thing, thank God, in a way that I didn't have to like die pushing him out. But other than that, recovery still to this day has been amazing. I'm blessed. I'm thankful, because I feel like I've heard horror stories, and I've heard other people's stories where their afterbirth experience was different. So I'm definitely grateful and blessed of how my recovery was right after having him. It was amazing. I will say it really, no pain down there. I barely tore. So yeah, it was pretty good. Question number 9, which I kind of missed earlier when I was talking about the epidural, is, did it hurt? I will say it didn't hurt at all. Again, it's like, this is why you don't need to listen to other people's experiences. And that's one thing that I tried to do my entire pregnancy. I like prayed from the time I found out about him to the time I was in that hospital. I didn't take other people's experience and think it was gonna be mine. I listened to other people's experiences. I'm like, oh my gosh, but I never sat here and was like, I'm gonna have that same experience, or I'm gonna feel that same pain, because I don't want to take on anybody else's experience but my own. So I definitely went into it like, okay, I heard about this epidural thing, but honestly, it was not bad at all. That was like not even one of the worst things. I feel like me getting my cervix checked was worse than the epidural. The epidural was not bad at all. They told me what to do. My anesthesiologist was amazing. My nurse was amazing. So they kind of prepped me prior to. I was in a position with Will to where I could breathe through the contractions, not move, etc. He put it in. It was literally like a little sting, if that. And that was it. It didn't hurt at all. definitely I will recommend, again, I got the epidural at 2 centimeters, so pain wasn't crazy and off the charts. If I would have waited a little bit longer, it probably would have been hard for me to sit in position and sit still enough to get the epidural. So I will say, if you cannot take pain, if you're squirmy, if you can't do it, I will say get the epidural earlier than later, because once the contractions start hitting way harder, it's going to be hard for you to actually sit there still and breathe through the pain of the contraction. So that's another tip. If you're planning on getting the epidural already, I would just get it a little earlier to avoid any type of mishaps with the epidural when they're giving it to you, and then you can kind of relax and enjoy the experience more. And my last and final question is, how was my overall experience? It was honestly, I'll say amazing, because I would definitely do it all over again if I could have another little amazing child. It wasn't terrible. I feel like I've experienced worse pain in other experiences, but I will say it was just overall an amazing experience for me, and I got to experience it with my husband. He was amazing support system, so that made it even better. He was there the entire time, didn't want to leave. My nurses was amazing. I mean, having amazing nurses, attentive nurses, definitely makes a difference. I was in there so long, I had like 4 different nurses, but every single one of them was amazing. So shout out to them. I even had one nurse that I heard about prior to going into the hospital, because my coworker is her friend, and when I tell you, she was the best thing that could have happened to me in that hospital during such a crazy time. Sorry, y'all, the camera cut off. But basically, I was just saying, having amazing nurses is the top tier thing you can do while you're in such a crazy experience, such as giving birth. My nurses was amazing. Again, I had somebody in there. I had a nurse that she just felt like a mom. She was the most helpful one ever. There was another nurse, I just love her. But yeah, having the amazing nurses, having such a great hospital and support was also great. I just, overall, from the time that I got in, it was definitely a long experience, because again, I was in that hospital for almost a week. But as far as delivery goes, I had a great experience. Again, I didn't tear. He was small, so it didn't feel like I was pushing out a big chunky monster. Other than that, I mean, I really can't complain. Honestly, I really can't. But overall, everything was just, to sum it up, I would do it again. And before having him, I didn't know if I wanted to do it again, because I just knew childbirth was going to be crazy. Now, again, second time around, I may get the short end of the stick. But with this one, everything was great. I was blessed. I have an amazing husband that was definitely a great support system. So yeah, everything was good. And again, I'll do it again, all over again. Now I gotta get my girl, and then after that, everything else can go away. But yes, hopefully I answered all of your questions, and if I didn't, definitely comment below if you have any other questions about my experience, anything that I experienced. I hope I was able to educate or give at least one person something from this video that they could take in their own experience, or just kind of understand how mine went, so that they can get an idea of how theirs could possibly go, or just to give you a peace of mind about something before you go into yours. I just hope I was able to give you that information and provide you with more details on how my experience went. Again, if there's any other questions that you may have, or anything that I missed, or anything that I can explain a little bit more, definitely comment below, and I'll be happy to answer and give you that information. But I appreciate you guys watching, and I hope you guys will be here for my next video. Not sure what that's gonna be, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys on the next video. Bye.